Hi everyone, it's John. It's Tuesday afternoon, and I have another book review for you. This book is called The World of Odysseus I don't know if you can tell by the dark red against the black there, it's by M.I. Finley, Moses Finley, with an introduction by Bernard Knox. It is, by the way, an NYRB reprint of uh, the uh, the exact same book. I think it might have been redone, but it was originally printed in, I think, 1951. So, in the course of your education, if your education was anything like mine, you first encountered Homer somewhere around the beginning of what Americans refer to as high school, which is usually around the age of 13, give or take a year or two. And depending on your enthusiasm, you were either bored to tears or really excited about reading Homer. But in either case, it's almost certain that you and your teacher both were probably woefully underprepared for the task. Shakespeare is usually introduced at around the same time and can induce the same kinds of fear and loathing in its first time audience. And as helpful and appreciated as they are, first time readers can usually do without summaries of Elizabethan England or three-dimensional panoramas of the Globe Theatre that seem to obligatorily adorn every English teacher's classroom. However, if you're going to delve into the world of Homer, I think that you need a sort of a rough guide to the Homeric world, which opens it up, sort of answers some questions, unkeys some locks, and it was just a different world. We have some access to Shakespeare in England, right? We kind of vaguely know, we certainly know the language. It's not too difficult for us. And we have some familiarity with the culture. The ancient Greece of 28 or 2900 years ago is another world. It's not something we have ready access to, cultural access, nor linguistic access, the vast majority of us. So it's nice to be able to have a book like this that goes some way in preparing us for the reading of someone like Homer. Like I said, being 7 or 8 times more at a remove in history from us, it's impossible to sort of go forward without books like this, or maybe even this particular book, depending on what you're interested in, and to sort of have that Virgil to guide a new student, the new student who would be, I guess, your Dante in this new world, this new literary sort of undertaking. I think without it, you're going to have these constantly recurring questions of students who ask their teacher, why Odysseus and his shipmates kept running into strangers and having all of these really weird adventures, and kept telling their origin story over and over again, usually in order to get something to eat or some wine to drink. Seems to be a very common tit for tat, quid pro quo thing all throughout the Odyssey. But the teacher, who's usually just sort of one chapter ahead of their most precocious students, who didn't know his oikos from his xenos, probably wasn't able to help on most accounts in answering those questions. So this book is fairly short. It's about 150 pages long. And it's really hardly the comprehensive guide that you need to take Homer really seriously, but it is a really good reprint, again by the classicist and scholar M.I. Finley, and it does a really capable job of introducing the reader to a world that you need, like I said, that marginal bit of familiarity with in order to appreciate Homer. Some of the major topics include the transmission of Greek literature, the writing and performance of Greek oral poetry, and quite a bit of information about the social, economic, and political organization of ancient Greek society, which again all sort of allows us to make more sense and to situate and contextualize Homer's poems. The first chapter is a discussion of the Greek alphabet, some broad trends in Greek literature, and a summary of how the Greeks themselves viewed their myths. Finley makes the interesting claim, I'm not sure if it's broadly accepted in scholarly circles, but he says that it's very possible that two different people might have written, or I should say, might have sung the Iliad and the Odyssey. We usually associate them as being sort of one mythic Homer, but it's very possible that it was possibly two or maybe even more people. The second chapter covers the historicity, the chronology, and the oral transmission of the epics. The last chapters cover ground that, so far as I can tell, is a little bit less documented, but really, really sociologically and culturally interesting. Covers things like the economics of gift giving, which is absolutely central to the Odyssey, especially if you've ever read it. Homer's theology, the monarchical system, and the function of the assembly, which, if you read the Iliad, is equally important there as the economics of gift giving is to the Odyssey. All in all, it's a pretty good book that answers a lot of questions I think that first time students are going to have when they're exposed to Homer. And I think whether you want to start or expand on that little corner of your library that you have dedicated to the ancient world or to Homeric epics in particular, I think this is not a bad place to start. The World of Odysseus by Moses I. Finley. And with an introduction by Bernard Knox. I'll be back next week. Bye, guys.